Hello there, Penguins fans. Welcome back to the second of two episodes for today, because of course I didn't have one on Thursday. For today's episode, we're going to have Jesse Marshall of The Athletic on to discuss everything regarding this team, from the GM firings to who he will be looking to replace Ron Hextall, Brian Burke, and Chris Pryor, to moves that he would make this offseason. Maybe he has some stuff that I haven't thought of, and we'll also discuss the playoffs as a whole. That's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all platforms. So for this one, your second listen of the day. Joining me now is the man, the myth, the legend, Jesse Marshall. He has not been on the show in quite a bit. He was on the round the 412 earlier this week. For some reason, they decided not to invite me. Nah, I'm just messing around, people. But Jesse, really appreciate you coming on, man. It's good to talk anything relating to the Penguins, even though this is a weird time not seeing them in the playoffs.
It is, yeah. I was in college the last time this happened. I'm old, like I'm way older than you were, probably like in elementary school, like kindergarten or something.
8.
Yes, close. I was close, third grade. So second or third grade. But that's, yeah, pretty much my entire adult life, right? There's been, even if it's for a brief spell like it was with Montreal in the play-in year, right? That didn't last very long, but they were still in, right? So It's a bizarre. I'm enjoying it personally. Not in like like I enjoy the Penguins not being in, but like it's nice to have the ability to sit down and like really pay really close attention to the other series. Because if you're writing about the Penguins, and you know this, you can pay attention to what other things are happening, but you're formulating story ideas or doing your show that you do every day and having to come up with content for that. Don't really have the joy as much maybe as you would other times. So the hockey fan, I guess, in us, it puts us in a little bit of a different position for sure. And I'm having fun kind of just like cutting video of like, whatever in the heck I feel like and writing about whatever I want. So it's kind of fun in that regard, I guess.
Yeah, you've been doing all that stuff for McKean's hockey, and if you're not reading Jesse's work, you are missing out because he's been putting a lot of video from all the other series. It has been fun, we'll get to the playoffs a little bit later, but I've just been, I've started like the final Thrawn trilogy. I've just been reading that and just watching the games. I'm like, wow, it's kind of interesting to not have to, be pacing around your house, your apartment, just watching this team in playoff games. It's new, but it's for like a one-off year, hopefully. Definitely a little different.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I mean, you and I have talked about the year that Crosby and Malkin had, and really the year that they ended up really from their top six, frankly. Jason Zucker having a career year in Pittsburgh from his time here. I think Jake Gensel probably would have liked to have scored a little bit more, but I think still had a good season. As much as there was bad, and there was a lot, there was also some good, and it's it feels wasteful, I think, is the word I think I would use. That there was a lot of good 82 game performances that got turned in, and unfortunately it led to nothing.
No, you're right. I mean, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin played all 82 games, had 85 to 90 plus points. They still couldn't even drag the rest of that team in the playoffs, and it led to some serious changes. It's been a week now, Jesse, since Ron Hextall, Brian Burke, and Chris Pryor lost their jobs. It's been a week since we first heard from Fenway Sports Group, and it's been crickets since then because there's really been no sort of rumors about who the next GM is going to be. I expected it to be quiet. I didn't think it was going to be, as fast as it was last time. I'm pretty sure when Rutherford resigned a couple of years ago, they filled that role within 2 weeks. Like, they were very quick. I think Rossi of The Athletic had like 5 candidates right off the bat within like 2 days. They're really, it looks like they're really taking their time with this. I think we're kind of similar with our thinking, but who are you really looking forward to potentially seeing, taking Ron Hextall's? I butchered that question. Who are you looking forward to potentially seeing, take over this team?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of names I'd throw at you, and I think they're all going to fit like a profile that you're not going to be surprised to find that I like. Eric Tulski's probably at the top of the list. That to me is,
I don't mind.
I don't think people understand, because this was like 13 years ago that this happened. But Eric Tulski wrote the articles that that birthed expected goal analysis. Like he did the work in the space that discovered score effects, right? And stuff like that. The fact that teams hemorrhage more shots when they're up 2 goals, and that maybe we should ignore that period of the game because there's a lot of noise in there. He's so savvy. I think for me anyway, what you really get with him, Hunter, is the guarantee that you're not going to have a glaringly erroneous player acquisition, right? Like Mikael Granlund, for example, inexcusable acquisition in every shape of it. A guy like Eric Tulski or I know Tyler Dello has a tendency to rub people the wrong way. His public discourse about analytics was often direct and to the point. Whereas, like, if you're in a conversation with someone who doesn't believe in hockey analytics or that numbers matter in hockey, maybe you tread lightly with them to try to get buy-in or present points in like you baby it down a little bit. Dello wouldn't do that. Like, he would just run you over with a steamroller with the facts and be like, your opinion's stupid. Here's the way it actually is. I like him personally. I like that. So I'm going to throw his name in there. These are guys that, again, here's the thing though, like if everybody keeps talking, well, what about these? They don't have the interpersonal relationships, and who cares? I don't care. I really don't. I don't care about that at all. I want guys who are going to make good, shrewd player acquisitions that cost other teams and benefit the Penguins. That should be everybody's goal. Like, why are we all interested? Well, does this guy, like, are they going to talk about golf for 25 minutes when they pick up the phone? Like, are they going to be friends? Like, I don't care. Get good players. That's what this is about, and they all have the ability to do that. Do people really think that if, like, Sam Ventura, who's another name who's from Pittsburgh, CMU guy, if he got the job and he called like Ron Francis, do people think Ron Francis would hang up because Sam Ventura is the new GM? Do people think that he just would like click, oh, idiot, and like hang the phone? This concept is crazy to me, that like you have to have some level of like interpersonal relationship with other general managers. I just don't believe in that. So all these names are fresh. Kyle Dubas, I don't care. I don't dislike Kyle Dubas. I think I don't know the story, right? That's the frustrating piece. I think the narrative I've been fed is that the bad decisions Kyle Dubas has made haven't really been his idea.
Brendan Shanahan.
You could sell me that with like maybe a bridge somewhere. I'm not that dumb, right? I'm just not. Like that's nonsensical to me. And what kind of organization do you have if your general manager could just be steamrolled into signing 40 plus veterans at the whimsical behest of Brendan Shanahan? Like, I just don't. Maybe that's the way it is, right? I just don't know that I believe that. I still don't dislike Kyle Dubas. I sorry, Hunter, but to finish my idea, like I do think there's merit in saying that despite the circumstances up there, that a large amount of cash and a blank check over hockey ops might be an attractive thing to him for a team that has Sidney Crosby's twilight. And imagine what his legend becomes if he wins a cup with Sidney Crosby one more time, right? Like, what does that do for him? Especially if he's making a bag of cash and he has 100% control over everything. Of course, I think he might be interested in that. I just don't know to what level, and I don't know. Obviously, the Penguins aren't out there like sitting down at the table having a conversation with him about it right now because the Maple Leafs are in the playoffs, and they're not tampering. So I don't know. I mean, I think that there's legitimacy to the interest. I just don't know if that's reciprocal. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, and we're probably not going to find that out for another week and a half until potentially the Leafs are eliminated. I think as soon as if they lose that series, I think Fenway's Sports Group is probably going to give him a call right away. I think they see him as like that Theo Epstein kind of guy when they hired him for the Red Sox. I think they think of him like that. Just 100% of the way. I understand that people will not like Dubas because, well, he's lost in the first round every year. Well, he's also in the general manager of a team that, is more or less cursed, but I also, they've gone up against some really tough opponents in those series. Like Boston's very good. Tampa Bay is very good. The Columbus and Montreal series, you probably should have won, but all their other years, they've gone up against some very good competition. I mean, I'm not saying I would hire him. I'm just saying that, he would be a better fit, than obviously the last regime and some of the other people that I think could be on this list. I just want someone who's not really a retread, like a Brad
recycled, recycled hockey man. Right.
Yeah.
100% agree. 100% agree.
It would just be dumb. Like, Brad Treliving, fine job in Calgary, got them close to the playoffs this year, did what he could with Tkachuk and Gaudreau leaving, but he's nothing much special. You have those dumb rumors about Stan Bowman.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to give him a call. Peter Chiarelli, I think I've seen floated out there. I mean, if you want a Hall for Larson type deal, you can just hire him for that.
You can do that.
But yeah, I just want someone
make bad situation
fresh.
Worse.
Yeah, literally. I just want someone who's fresh, who's innovative, brings new ideas, and actually knows how to evaluate players in our year 2023 and not from 2017 or 2018, Jesse.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Well, that's the big thing too. And then like a lot of people, I'm really not afraid to say this, but like, Mr. Huffman got brought into the Penguins organization. He'd never been a scout anywhere before, right? Like, what was his history? Is as extensive as mine, frankly. Actually, yeah. I don't know if I might even say mine's more extensive. It's like I've been sitting on the internet doing this for years. I don't know, man. I think there was a touch of like, my friends are here, like, let's bring them on over. And I think that there was a disconnect for me between what the coach wanted to do and the way that he wanted to play and what they were signing and bringing in. Like, I think that was really, really off the mark. Like, there was a complete divorce between the two parties. That they never were on the same page, hardly at any point, other than maybe like Ricard Raquel. You could say it was like a player that really fit the style of play that Sullivan wanted. But outside of that, I feel like everything else. Ryan Poehling, maybe we could add in there. But for the most part, like, there were a lot of whiffs, and I think whatever you do, you do have an analytics department already. It's there, pre-existing. It's very talented, and Katarina was great. You could build around that. I think you give somebody that ability to come in and control it, right? Like I said, Hunter, that allure of like that blank check. And if they want to build out an assistant GM and they want to bring other people in, great. If they don't, great. Trust whoever it is, make the right hire, trust whoever it is, and then let them paint the vision and take control of it.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to do anybody any good to, bring a Burke in again or bring in some kind of like, hiring manager, or something like that. Let the team make the decision, let the group make the decision.
Yeah.
Target the guy you want, and then let that person that you've brought in let them be the architect. Don't bring in somebody else to do it for them.
No, I mean,
and that's not, by the way, not an excuse for Ron Hextall. That's not an excuse for Ron Hextall. It was just a weird marriage, right? Like, it's just like, it didn't make any sense to me. And there was always that question of who's actually in charge here. You can never have that happening again. There's to be very, very clear who this person in charge is this time around.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it with the Jacob Chikrin stuff. I think that was honestly almost felt like the beginning of the end for Hextall here, just because it kind of was going against Sullivan a little bit. And I don't think Sullivan has any Bill Belichick-like power here, but he obviously has been here for a long time. And while Hextall wasn't, that's just, yeah, you're right. The two never saw eye to eye, I think, on how their respective viewpoints wanted the team to be built. And I do think for this front office, Jesse, other than bringing in an innovative person, I've been thinking this for the last couple of days. I think you're going to see a woman be brought aboard because, the time is coming when there is going to be a woman general manager in this league. I would say probably within the next couple of years, to be honest. And, with the way Fenway operates, I think they could definitely try to, if they do want someone like Dubas, I could see them going out there and getting Haley Wickenheiser, who's there as an assistant GM under him. I think Rob had Alexandra Mandrycky. She's in Seattle. I think, John, you're going to hear this later. on today on the hockey happy hour. Well, probably shouldn't have dropped that. We're still in the baby stages of it, but Josh dropped Cami Granado. I would be very surprised if there wasn't a woman on this staff, and I would be all for it because again, the time is coming when there is going to be a full-time woman general manager in this league.
Amen. I hope they pick up the phone and call my friend Rachel Dory. Free plug
Megan
for her.
Tyka as well.
Yeah, Megan would be great. Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah, I mean, any of those names are phenomenal. Yeah, I agree with you. By the way,
Yeah.
No two ways about it. Like I'm not gonna get into like the specifics because out of respect, but I think what happened with Rachel sucked. That situation was crappy. I'd be wary of some people because of that situation. That's just my opinion. But I think, it's another name I would just throw in the hat is the Dory name.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect one right there. That will wrap up this first segment of the podcast. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to get into some moves that, I'm going to ask Jesse if he thinks the Penguins should make over the offseason, as I do think there are going to be quite a few changes. But before we get into that, we do have to discuss eBay Motors. If I get my wonderful, nope, that's not the right one. That is the right one for the YouTube audience. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to feel just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guarantee Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or you'll get your money back, because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right price on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, we're back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. I am with Jesse Marshall of The Athletic. Jesse, whenever the new management staff comes in, whether that's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, maybe more, they are going to be pressed with a lot of decisions to make this summer. There's a lot of UFAs, a couple RFAs. There's also some players under contract who probably should not be returning next season. And, I'll throw this out there because I saw this thrown around social media this week. I talked about it on my show. Jesse, do you think it's worth it for the Penguins to buy out Mikael Granlund and eat some salary cap for the next several years?
I think it's the most sensible thing that they can do. Frankly, I think any general manager that gets hired, that should be the first order of business. It just makes too much sense. What sucks is that, and you and I have always discussed like how cool it'll be when the cap goes up. How creative can the Penguins get? Like, what will they do with that extra money? Well, now they kind of have to flush it down the toilet a little bit, right? Because they got to buy him out. But I don't think he has the goods to play in the Mike Sullivan system at a $5 million a year cap hit. That's the key, right? Like at that level, I don't see him as like a super aggressive bear down forechecker. I think he fits that bill. I don't think he's going to get the power play time to be an impactful playmaker, because that's probably the best part of his game. And the second power play unit in Pittsburgh is basically garbage time, right? You don't see a lot of action in there. Crosby, Malkin, and Letang are going to dominate that top unit. At even strength, his impacts were negligible at best. He scored one trash time goal against the Flyers.
I'm not even going to count that goal anymore. Doesn't count.
Well, Hunter, here's the other thing I haven't even gotten to. He's objectively bad defensively.
Yeah,
he is. He just is. He's not good defender. You could say what you want, but you can't put lipstick on a pig. Like I see it. Like it's there. The data's there. It's not great. So I would rather. It's one of those situations where you'd rather pay to not have to deal with all that, and then have the rest of the cap space. You could sign 2 players that are more impactful for him with the money that you have left over. Take out what is like 1.8, I think, Hunter, don't quote. Do you know the number offhand? I think is it 1.8 million?
This year, the buyout cap hits 933, I think.
933.
And then it goes up to 1.8 for the next several years.
But look at it this way, though. Do the math. That's money that you have. If you go out and make 2 shrewd, smart moves for 1.5 mil a piece,
You have $4 million
Great.
in extra cap space this year.
Yeah, get another $5,000. You just gave yourself a little buffer. Congratulations. So I just feel like it's almost, it makes too much sense to not do it. I would be shocked if it didn't happen. Just because, again, if Mike Sullivan's sticking, or even if he's not sticking around, like, even if they get a new coach, do you still really want that at $5 million a year? I mean, I don't see the results improving in any drastic format, regardless of what the system is. So for me, yes, I would 100% do it.
Yeah, you're right, Jesse. I don't think he ever really truly fit the system. His offense has gone downhill. I don't need to hear about the 64 points he played with Roman Yossi, Matt Duchene, and Philip Forsberg. I've probably said that about 5,000 times. There's a stupid little critter, not even a critter, just a little fly trying to fly around near my desk. Another question I have for you is, what about, for defensively, Jeff Petry makes a lot of money, 6.25 for the next couple of seasons. I was on board with that move at the time because he played pretty well down the stretch. The season before this one under Marty St. Louis, I believe, had 21 points in 30 games after St. Louis took over. Thought, okay, put him in a more offensive system, he'll thrive. Well, he didn't. His age started to show. Do you think the Penguins could look to move on from him this offseason, even though his contract is a bit much?
I think that you probably try, but to your point, right, you're going to have to sweeten that pot potentially for another team to take some of that on. They don't have any sweeteners, or they can't afford to sweeten, right? That may hamper their ability to do things in other areas. So, here's the good news: is he wasn't a disaster, right? Like, he wasn't this undeployable. I think he suffered from big moments. I think what would really benefit Jeff Petry and Pittsburgh Hunters to just pinch less. I think that's true of all the defensemen. I think that just as an organization, they need to pinch less, period, all the time. I think that green light is a little too green in some uncomfortable areas for me. So I think if they could tone that back, it does two things. One, it gives him more cause to have to utilize some shrewd common sense in his bench situations, so they could bit him down the stretch this year. I think, two, it takes the burden off him to have to face less odd man situations. From an expected goals against standpoint, Hunter, the Penguins were trash defensively this year. And I think it was a lot of it was transition stuff, right? They get caught a lot. They were forced to play in transition on their heels and didn't react well to situations where they had to freelance read things, right? So anything you could do to reduce those moments is going to be great. So if he does stick around, I think there are ways that they can organically get a little bit more out of him, without sinking the boat defensively.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Also, putting a competent partner with him would help. If that's Marcus Pettersson, that's Marcus Pettersson. If it's someone else who they decide to sign, which I think that's one of their top needs, and that's that. But speaking of that, Jesse, what is kind of like your dream mock offseason outside of buying out Granlund? I've been on the record saying I think they need someone else to play with Chris Letang. I think that's a big piece of the puzzle. They also probably need a starting goaltender. You got to fill out your bottom six. How would you approach this offseason to getting this team back to at least being a playoff team next year?
Sure. I mean, so goaltending is number one.
Yeah.
I think anything you do right out of the gate that's not that is a mistake. Strictly just because you can fix the roster, and you could dress that up and fill out those holes and get a better bottom six and all that. But if you have bad goaltending, leaky goaltending, who cares, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, you're still going to lose. I think, you don't have a team right now that's good enough, nor do I think you can build a team that's good enough to overcome something like that, So that's the first one. Now you're going to have to get a little creative there, for sure, right? No question about it. A name I like in free agency that I think is out there that you might be able to get fancy and do something with is like an Aiden Hill. Maybe you go out and find a way to get creative and do that. Maybe you make a trade. Vamelka's a guy I like out in Arizona. They're all
UC Saros.
UC Saros. Everybody loves that. I'm down with that as well. But you have to do something, right? Like, you got to do something. You got to go out. I don't think either of the goalies that they had this year should be back. I don't think either one of them. If you want to keep Dustin Tokarski for the AHL, great, fine. I don't care. But the other ones they've got to go. Looking out from the back defensively, Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm not so much interested in like the discussions that people are having regarding like size when you get bigger. Blah, blah, blah. I just want people who can handle the puck, right, and are good in transition. That's really it for me. That's my requirement. People who maybe can traditionally help you drive play a little bit, and pick you up. Unfortunately, all the good you have to rebuild the big. So number two, I'm going to say is actually rebuild the bottom six. Whether that's like let some young players that are on cheap deals, uh, you know, get in there and finally play. Maybe you have to do that. Cool, I understand that. Maybe you have to get creative and try to find a way to go out and pinch and poach an RFA somewhere, and get their rights, because they don't, compensation wise, they're in a crappy position. But you have to, you got to find a way to do things on the cheap when it comes to the bottom six. And that starts with, maybe like a guy like a Drew O'Connor, and just sucking it up and giving him the space, and putting him down there permanently because it saves you money, and you could potentially have the space to do other things. So, in order for me is goaltending bottom six, and then, you can individually spot out from there.
Oh, there's Jesse's mock off season right there. Hopefully, the new management comes in here and, sees the flaws with this team. And I do agree with you about O'Connor. I think he should have a full-time spot next season. Paling, I'm lukewarm too. I thought he played better when he got back from his injury, but
Yeah.
I'm still not sure if he can fully stay healthy for next season. But that'll do it for this segment. Coming up to end the show, we're going to do some little talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs, what Jesse has seen so far, what I've seen from a lot of these series. So don't go anywhere. That's coming up right after this commercial break. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all platforms. I don't know, this weird little fly thing is just.
You got a little fruit fly over there or something. What's going on?
He is testing me today. I don't know where this thing came from. I'm
You
in
need
my
to step
office.
up your reflexes. You've been swatting at this thing
I've been
this whole
trying
time.
to kill it.
Thank God you're not a goalie. You'd be a sieve. You have a terrible glove, Hunter. Terrible.
He won't die.
Matt Murray love a glove.
I know. It's terrible. Oh, he won't die. But, I can tell you who also, won't die. There's a lot of these teams in the playoffs right now because a lot of these series are very good. Jesse, when you've watched all nights of the Stanley Cup playoffs so far, what series has really caught your eye as the one where fans need to be like, okay, I got to tune into this one?
Seattle, Colorado. Been so much fun. Game's been great. Both of these teams, I think what's interesting about this is they're playing the same systems pretty much, for the most part, in that like they're really aggressive on their forecheck, and each team is simultaneously trying to rob the other of as much time and space as they possibly can. I loved watching in game one Seattle close a lead out super aggressively and like on the front foot. We're not going to sit back and protect this lead. We're going to continue to try to press you. And then they did that again in game two, but Colorado, found a way around it. I posted a video on Twitter today of them, using that long change in the second period to their advantage. There's a lot of little quick stretch passing that they did to get around the Seattle forecheck. So I feel like there's two coaches in that series that are really dancing around each other right now and trying to figure out how they're going to find time and space. I thought the Rangers-Devils series was going to be the best one in the playoffs, and boy, does it suck. It just sucks. I mean, the Rangers are just absolutely throttling them. Reminds me of 2000.
It's Penguins Senators
2007. Yeah, 100%, man. I agree with that 100%. Boston, Florida's been good, right? That's been good. I think it's been a good series. No Bergeron makes that a very interesting dynamic. It totally changes the face of that series. And then, I'm interested to see what happens tonight with this game 3 in Edmonton and LA. Because Connor McDavid's super good. Leon Draisaitl's super good. But man, like the Kings again, in that game 1, they felt like a team that could like take this the distance and make it really difficult. So if Edmonton comes out tonight and just destroys them, this one might be quick. If LA wins, whoa, buckle up. That'll be fun.
LA's been kind of like trapping a bit. Have you noticed that? They play like a 1-3-1, almost like a 1-4.
What are the other options? Let Connor McDavid dice you, right?
Yeah.
So like I wouldn't even, if he was on the ice, all 5 guys on the blue line, just stand there. Sticks out. Lay down. Everyone lay down. Lay down across the blue line. Make them dump it. I'm kidding, but no, I think that's smart, to be frank with you. They can't punch with them. They cannot do it.
No.
Right. And there's a lot of times like where I think like, Florida's, I think, a great example of this. Seattle's a great example of this, frankly, is like, if your strength is forechecking and aggressive play, live on that, don't go up against a better team and cower. But I think in this case, like, it's working. So, it worked a little bit, and it's probably your best chance to survive. So, that's what they used to do it in Lemieux back in the day, dude. Like, and you could get away with like putting your arm around somebody's neck and giving him a DDT, like that was illegal. Like that's what you did against Lemieux, like DDT, power drive him, give him a tombstone. And that's the only chance you have to win. So, yeah. And then Tampa, Toronto, what a just absolute. Those Toronto fans were feral last night. It was crazy. It was great. So that's gonna be 7 agonizing games for the fans of those franchises. They're just gonna tear each other to shreds. And I'm gonna sit back and enjoy it.
That's been a fun one so far. I don't know if you saw that. I'm not repeating this on here, obviously. Phil Esposito, I think, honored 420 with a really bad quote last night during that Leafs.
I did not see this. What was it?
I'll send it to you. It's
okay. Don't do it. Yeah, if you can't. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm glad I missed it. Frankly,
it is. Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking there, but yeah, there was a ton of penalty minutes there. The Dallas Minnesota series has been awesome. I love watching those teams go at it. I don't know why Minnesota went to Fleury in game 2. That
weird,
really
right?
made no sense.
Yeah, but you usually don't do that after a win. But
yeah, that one. Yeah, I don't understand that at all. And then the one series, Jesse, that I can't watch, that Carolina New York series, it's just like watching paint dry. It's so bad.
Yeah. Not a good matchup for the Islanders.
No.
Right? At the end of the day, they're really struggling.
They can't score.
Well, yeah, that's a problem too, but like their crease coverage has been terrible. They've just been letting people get behind them, and it's just not been good. So I think they've got to start doing it. If they can't do a better job in front of their net and wide, they're going to get eaten alive. And look, I know like refs miss penalties. That's the theme of the NHL playoffs, but you cannot go out of position to complain about it. You can't. You're going to get destroyed, and that's exactly what happened over Scott Mayfield. He left his man wide open, and Jesper Foss crushed him for it. So lesson learned. If the call gets missed, you're better off swallowing it and walking away. Because these refs, they'll burn you for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. And that was a penalty, obviously, but you're right. You can't be skating out of your way to bark at the ref when there's a scoring chance coming in. I also thought Sorokin was terrible in that game. That was a very off day for who I think is one of the 3 best goaltenders on the planet. They're up a creek. Even though Carolina is down Teravainen and Svechnikov, they should be able to win 2 of these remaining 5 games. You're right. It's a bad matchup for the Islanders. The Hurricanes, they can do what the Islanders do. Like they'll shut you down. Like that's how they are. But it's also like watching paint. It's also like watching paint dry. Your water boil for pasta. It is a tough watch. I was impressed by what Florida did to Boston in game 2. I was sitting there to myself. I was like, "Oh, tie game going into the 3rd period. Would the Penguins have won that game, Jesse?" No, I don't. I would probably have said no. And honestly, it's just watching these games. Other than maybe the Islanders, I don't think the Penguins are better than any of these teams. And nope. I think they would have gotten destroyed.
I think if you look at the way some of the goals, I posted a montage on Twitter yesterday of like, the far forward scored like 3 goals in the NHL the other night, like the forward that's like tucked away from the play. The Penguins did such a bad job marking that forward. Like they'd have just been eaten alive by it. I was just thinking that myself when I was cutting that video, like all of these goals are like goals the Penguins allowed all year long, and they probably just gotten crushed. So I'm with you, man. I don't think it would have been very pretty.
No, it would not. And yeah, that Jersey Rangers series, yeah, it's definitely looking like I think Jersey's there a little too early. They're just not ready. I don't think they're ready for this yet. Very similar to the Penguins in 2007 when they got waxed by that veteran setters team. The Rangers are going to be really tough out, and that's getting a little scary there. That they might have a good draw. If they can win that series and they potentially get a banged up Carolina team, they may make a run to the conference final or potentially the Stanley Cup final. They have the team to do it. This season. Yeah, I mean, that Colorado series has been great. I didn't think the Seattle would be giving them this much of a fight, to be honest, Jesse.
Yeah.
Didn't think, even without Landeskog, but Colorado's, they're in a war right now, and they're going to have to get ready for that, great atmosphere in Seattle this weekend. Last question for you. What are you looking forward to for the remainder of these series? Anything jump your eye for that?
I'm gonna go back to, again, just the Seattle Colorado piece. I think if you're interested in like systems or coaching, it's a good one to watch. It's a lot of audibles getting called, not a lot of space. So it's very, chaos in the hockey playoffs is what we expect. But I think that, because of the environment and the systems, has been ratcheted up to a level maybe just a little bit higher than the rest of these series right now.
Yeah, it's a late one, so you have to stay up to watch it, but it's the weekend. You have no excuses not to.
Yeah.
It's not the weekday. But that would do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Jesse, really appreciate you coming on. Why don't you tell everyone where you can, outside the Athletic, where they can read your work, because you are doing a lot of league-wide stuff right now.
Yeah, so I'm at McKean's, NHL general stuff, at mckeanshockey.com, and then at the Athletic, it's Penguins specific stuff. Then I do a little everything on the old Twitter at jmarshfof.
Yeah, so follow him there. Follow all of his work at the Athletic and McKean's Hockey. And, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on. We're definitely going to have to do this at some point again during the offseason, probably more than once. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. We'll see what happens with these series. We'll see if we get any more rumors or in the Penguins GM search. Until then, I'll talk with you all on Monday.